Well, Frank, let's play the next section. We're going to hear lawmakers talking about the media coverage of Congress.
Sometimes when I go back home and people talk, just what is going on there? And I said, I wish you could be there for the full 24 hours and not just that 3 minutes piece that you saw on TV, because for all of us being here, like Billy and I, we get along so well. There's so many of us that really get along well. But you don't see that happen. And Mike and I work together on childhood cancer. And that's something that's neither Republican or Democrat. That's just true American.
I think elections are about contrast. So when you're running in your election cycles, it's about the contrast that you can paint with the other party or the other person. Governing is about finding common ground with that person. And unfortunately, too often, media makes a lot of profit off that contrast. And you have to be careful how you win, because however you win, that's what people will expect out of you. So if you win with division and with distrust and with disgust, you're going to have to use that as a narrative while you're serving in office. That poisons the country. It polarizes the country. And so what you see on the news so often is what you see on campaign trails, the contrast. But what we miss is not the underbelly, it's the reality of daily life that Mike Bennett from Colorado and myself worked on, investing in opportunity, ways of bringing resources back to poor communities.
In the 7 terms I've been in Congress, now you have these outside groups scoring your votes. Now you have media picking fights with the other side. And the expectation is that we are going to hate the other side of the aisle. And I don't think that's a very positive, that's not good for the body politic. I think it's destructive. And I've seen that change in just a short time I've been in the Congress. And a lot of it's impacted by outside groups. I think all of us in the room have a genuine respect for where we stand as members of Congress. We respect what we do. We may have differences, but we need to be civil about that and not take this other tone of anger and hatred that too often plays out, and sometimes it plays out in the media.
I think if I would point to anybody as the greatest saboteur of our election, it would be the press and the way that they drive the message that they want to drive, hands down.
Yeah, but what's the alternative? You want to do it like Greece and Turkey in terms of how they control their media, and particularly their print media? I think the press has done a fantastic job. I get more problems with the press than you do, for crying out loud. But the fact of the matter is, Peter Zenger is rolling over in his grave when he sees what's happened over the last 6 months. And it started out.
The alternative is more editorializing and less opinion.
Okay.
You're not saying you
we may agree on that.
Frank.
But the point of the matter is, there is a point when you're intimidating the press. That's where it starts. And you're trying to get them to move in a very different direction. And that is a serious problem. You may think that nobody's listening and watching. I disagree with that. If there's anything that brings Americans together, they do not want to be made fools of.
So, Frank, how do these lawmakers think media coverage overall has affected their ability to find consensus?
They think that it has undermined it, almost unanimously they think it's undermined it because the media focuses on the conflict rather than, if I get the words out, rather than the effort to work together. And what was interesting for me, and you may hear it in some of these conversations coming up, is that each of these members have worked with someone from the other party in that room. And I had no idea when these members agreed to participate that you have members who worked on health care, members who worked on the opiate challenge, members who worked on job training, and so many of these different issues, that there actually is a level of cooperation that the American people do not know. Because all they get, and we're all guilty of it, is these 20-second sound bites of members just going at each other, and the angrier that they are, the more likely it is that it gets on television.
Well, Frank, stand by. We've got a lot more to discuss.